Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ella Johnson Show. I am so excited to be here with you guys tonight. It has been an awesome Birthday 53 series this week. It's almost like the revival of the Ella Johnson Show. Well, listen, we are bringing another exciting show to you tonight. Listen, get your tissues out because you're going to need them. That's what happens here on the Ella Johnson Show. People come here to the show to tell their true stories, and it moves us because you just can't believe that people go through some of the things that they go through. Well, it's true, and you're going to hear about it tonight. I have three guests that are going to be with us tonight. Damon Thomas is joining us. I'm so excited about that. Damon is my friend, and he's a therapist for mental health trauma. And we have some trauma tonight that has happened. And there are people that are watching this broadcast that can definitely benefit from these issues and hearing about what other people go through. It can help you because it helps you to be able to empathize with them. And then you find certain things in your own life that you may have experienced or be experiencing. And the reason mental health is so important is because you think you may have gotten over it. And then one day, something will trigger it, and now you realize that that thing that you've been holding on to is still there. It's almost like a woman when she's in labor. You almost forget about the baby until you get those labor pains, right? And then you realize that there's still a baby in there, and now it's bringing some pain to you. But the reason we like to do these true survival stories also is because it reveals things about us that we didn't know, and we have to get over things and get through them in life. And sometimes, we think we're alone, and you're not alone. My guest tonight, I'm proud of the fact that they're brave enough to come here and share their truth and tell their stories because it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy. And right now, a lot of them they're in transition. So that's why you guys just have me right now, but they are coming. So I just want you guys to know that tonight on the broadcast, it's true stories of survival. And this is their truth. They're bearing it all here on the Ella Johnson Show. Now, what I want you guys to do is, first of all, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you're watching from Facebook, thank you so much. Just do me a favor and just start tagging people right now. Just tag people that you know could benefit from this program. If you know people who have been an alleged victim of CPS corruption, because we all know we've all had some kind of dealing. Well, not everybody, but people have had dealings with CPS. And if you have, and you remember how that experience was, you do not want to miss tonight's broadcast because not only did my guest Lucinda go through that, but she's also helping other people go through it and win. So you want to definitely tune in to this broadcast for that. Now, I want you guys to do me a favor. As you're watching the show, I want you to comment. I want you to leave comments encouraging my guest, questions that you may have that I didn't think of or that you might just want to know. Please, by all means, leave your questions and comments right here. All right. And because, we're going to bring it up here because we want you guys to get involved and be engaged in this broadcast because it's a very important show. My guests look like they're all coming in now. So I will bring them here so they can all say hello to you guys as well. There's Lucinda, there's Lawrence, and there's Damon. Everybody is here. I love it. I love it. But listen, guys, so thank you again for watching from Facebook. If you're watching from YouTube, do me a favor since you're there. please go ahead and subscribe to the Ella Johnson Show. You might as well. You're already there. Subscribe to the channel so that you will now get updates about all of my shows, but you have to click that alarm as well. Okay. And it looks like Mr. Campbell is definitely saying hello to everybody. Thank you, Mr. Campbell, for always tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. But I want you guys to meet my guest, but we're going to do that after this break. All right. Thank you, Lawrence. Lawrence, you know what, guys? I applaud him because he's coming onto my show, and he's in Liberia right now. That's in West Africa. So he's 4 hours ahead right now. So he had to get some sleep to come on this show first, so he doesn't fall asleep on us. Hopefully he won't yawn, but he is a wonderful young man. He's one of my volunteers for Women at Work International. We do a lot over in Africa. So I just want to take this break. And when we come back, guys, you're going to get to meet my awesome, awesome guest. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. It's time for the Ella Johnson Show. I'm so excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope you enjoy the broadcast. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you at the end of the show. One day someone asked me, "Oh, what is so special about doing talk shows? Like, why do you do it?" I said, because I love for people to see that God is using them, because things don't happen to you. They actually happen through you. And now it's time for the Ella Johnson Show, where we set the table for real talk conversations. So hit that share button and invite your family and friends to watch the Ella Johnson Show. Stay tuned. And we're back. We're back. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with us. And I just want to welcome you again to the Ella Johnson Show. If you're just tuning in, it is again my birthday 53 series. And this is night number 4. It's a revival. Y'all know what those revivals are like. I don't know. Lucinda. I don't know. I know Damon knows about how we have these church revivals. Yes.
Well, I'm actually a pastor's wife, so I'm very familiar with them.
Well, then you're very familiar. Well, it's a revival, baby girl, on the Ella Johnson Show. Tonight is our 4th night. Tomorrow's our last night. Damon's going to be here tomorrow night, but he's offered to be here tonight so he can help us through some of this trauma that we're going to hear about. And for those of you that are out there who may be experiencing some of these things and these issues as well. So you guys ready to meet my guest? Yes? Awesome. Lawrence is in the building. Like I said, guys, if you're just tuning in, Lawrence is gone again. Well, Lawrence is back again. There he is. Lawrence is joining us tonight, guys, from Monrovia, Liberia, and which is in West Africa. And he's here tonight because he wants to share his story with us. Now, Lawrence and I met a while ago. He's one of my volunteers because my nonprofit, Women at Work International, we do some things over in Africa for the kids and for different social issues that we have over there. And I work with him and another team, other guys, volunteers. So he wanted to be here tonight. He's one of my volunteers. I love him. He is currently attending Lincoln College of Professional Studies right now. He was also leading a bunch of young people, and it was Youth Against Drugs. Now, he led the charge to President of Liberia, which is George Weah, because the kids there are suffering from drugs and they're all living in ghettos. And so Lawrence really believed in that fight, and he asked me to join him. So we went live in the ghettos, but he's now here with the Ella Johnson Show tonight. Welcome, Lawrence, to the Ella Johnson Show again. Yay! I think his hearing is delayed over there. You with us? Your mic is muted. You guys bear
Are
with
you
us.
hearing me now?
Yes, now we can hear
Yes.
you. Yes.
Okay. That's
All
great.
right. So I just said, welcome to the Ella Johnson Show. Yay.
Yes. Let me say thank you. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on this show. I think this is my second time now. Some
Yes.
years back, we were on the show to talk about the issue of drug and substance abuse. So it's my pleasure to be on a show that is highly followed across the world. It's my pleasure.
Wow. Well, I definitely appreciate you for being here. I know it's late there. So the sacrifice that you had to make to be here, I know there was one, but I do appreciate you. Awesome. So then we have
Thank you.
Miss Lucinda Pennington. Lucinda has two master's degrees, guys. Very, very educated and very qualified woman she is. But she has master's degrees in family crisis counseling. And what was the other one? I'm sorry. Tell me what was the other one?
Bible theology.
Bible theology. That was the other one. She's the founder of Overcomers Counseling Center. That's her 501c3. She's married for 30 years. That's a long time, baby. 30 years, six children. She's going to tell you about the eight children that are in heaven. We're going to talk about that tonight. She's the author of many books, but one that I thought was very interesting is titled They Meant It for Evil. There it is. There's a copy of it right there. They meant it for evil, but God meant it for your good. I love it. That's one of my favorite sayings ever. Scriptures. Um, her passion to help families comes from her own life, guys. Now, when I said that you're going to need tissue, I there are no words for what she went through as a child and now turned all of that pain into her passion for helping families. And you're going to hear her story uncut right here tonight. She has fought CPS for many years, most of her life. She has closed. Now, she advocates for families now. Okay. That means that if you're feel that you've been wronged allegedly by CPS, she will come in and assist you. And she has done that for 204 cases. She's closed 204 cases.
206 now. As
Oh,
of a week ago, it's now 206, and I've
all right.
reunited 436 children back to their family.
436 children back to her families. See that? Now, because of this, she has experienced some retaliation for exposing some large organizations. You guys going to hear all about that tonight. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Miss Lucinda. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I am so glad to have you here. I know she's in her car right now, guys, because she's still working. Isn't that something?
And where you out of, Lucinda? Where you out of?
I'm Missouri.
Okay.
Missouri.
Sure. All right. And then, of course, Damon Thomas, who is a fixture here on the Ella Johnson Show. This is my friend, and he is in the ATL right now. Now, Damon is the host of Men in Courage. If you guys can see his sign back there, but he is the host of Men of Courage because he's also a domestic violence survivor. And now he is going all over the world helping people that are suffering. And he also is a certified, now I said certified, that means he's got the papers. He's a certified therapist for mental health trauma. And that's why it's so great for him to be on the broadcast tonight so that he can kind of help work through some of these issues that people may be still experiencing. Welcome again and again and again to the Ella Johnson Show, Damon Thomas.
Thank you always. Thank you always.
Awesome, awesome. Well, listen, guys, we have a lot to cover tonight, and I want to make sure that everyone gets their equal time because we definitely have to, we have to be out of here at a certain time, but we want to, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Everybody's good? Everybody's feeling good?
Awesome.
Positive?
Awesome.
Yes, I'm fine.
Right?
I'm fine. That's for me. I'm okay.
Awesome.
It's good to be up.
It's good to be up. And you're going to be graduating next year. Awesome.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
next week.
month.
Next month.
Yeah.
Month. He's graduating
Yay!
next month. Yeah. And how many graduate? And listen, when you guys hear his story and to hear that he's graduating, don't tell me what you can't do. I'm telling you, living proof this young man is. So we're going to start with you, Lucinda. I want you to tell us, you've already told us that you're in Missouri, but tell us a little bit about what your job entails. Let's start with that. What does it mean to do what you do?
Well, I'm an advocate and a consultant, counselor / trying to help people better their lives that grew up in the system. I hear an echo.
Somebody's phone is on there because I can hear me. Yeah.
So it might be.
Yeah, let's make sure that we're
It might
good
be
on
my
that.
car. Can you hear me better with
Yes.
no echo? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, my car was picking it up and replaying it. I apologize.
It's all right. Your car
That's
just
what I
loves
need
me that
to.
much.
So,
The car just can't get enough of me, girl. That's what I'm saying. I love it.
so I
Okay.
advocate for I call it the voices that have no voice in court, which are the kids that are in foster care, the parents that aren't being listened to. I expose corruption in child protective services where they're forging police reports, forging medical records, forging drug testing. I would have a parent come to me and say, I swear on God's Bible that I am not using drugs. I promise you I'm not using drugs. And so saw a need, fulfilled that need.
And
I
then
went and
we'll
got
come
educated
back.
and started my own business of drug testing so that I could go with the parents and prove that they were forging documents, not only forging documents, but not doing the drug testing properly. And I shut down 3 drug testing companies here in Missouri. So they don't like me too well. In fact, just in the last 2 weeks, 23 people have lost their jobs here out of retaliation because they call me the fraud and the criminal, and they're trying to get court orders to shut me down as an advocate and consultant to lawyers. They refuse to work with the parents if they're working with me. So I work behind the scenes. God blessed me with a building. They're kind of mad about the building. I had somebody on my board who won a lawsuit, and he decided he wanted to bless me. And I asked him if he would bid on this building. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. If we win it for this amount, it's yours. Right. And I was like, I don't think we'll get it for that amount. But hey, if God wants me to have it, that's the amount it's going to be. Right.
Amen.
Well, we got it for the exact amount that he said I could have it for. And not only did we get that building, but we got the building next to it to where I can help parents with a food handler license, help them get skills and stuff like that. I'm opening up an autistic hair salon so that I can train these parents to have jobs and stuff like that. I help parents start jobs. I've helped 19 parents so far start businesses, from
Wow.
lawn mowing services to hair cutting salons to home
Wow.
cleaning, you name it. So I've
Wow.
helped mobile mechanics start businesses because they can't keep jobs because they have a criminal record or nobody wants to hire them. And so I help them start their own businesses. For example, a lawn mowing business was called Second Chance Lawn Mowing. And so he bloomed up really big. I was really proud of him. Him and his wife had actually lost their rights. Their rights had been terminated. I started studying the rules and guidelines of Children's Division and realized that there's states that will let you reinstate your parental rights, even if you lose your rights, if you meet certain guidelines and the children have not been adopted. So after 2 years of helping him start a business, helping him stay clean for 2 years, have financial stability, he got his 2 daughters back, him and his
Oh,
wife.
that is
So
amazing. That is
those are the
amazing.
type of families that
That's
I help. Like I said, it's a blessing. Um, at the same time, a lot of retaliation.
I'm
They
sure.
blacklist me. I've exposed $2.3 million of medical fraud. They get a slap on the hand, only have to pay back $1,900 and some change.
We'll get to all of we'll get to
Yeah.
that, Linda, for sure. Because I want to take everybody from the beginning so we can take them through your entire story tonight. Okay. So I want you to tell me, because one of the most disturbing situations, experiences that you shared with me was when you were 5 years old on your birthday. Let's start there. Tell everybody what happened,
Well,
but before that, let's talk about how it is that you ended up before that. What was
Well,
your childhood like up to that?
I was one of those children. Why they say Children's Division needed to be established was
Yeah.
because my birth mother, who was the local prostitute that lived at the dump, she literally lived in a uh, cleaned out bus before they used to make tiny houses out of buses. My birth mother was the local whore that lived at the dump, and she abandoned me on the day I was born. I had a twin. She had miscarried at 6 months. And so when she went in to give birth to me, she thought she had food poisoning. She didn't know she was giving birth. So when she realized she had a baby, she decided, I don't want this baby, and got up and walked out. So I was actually born on Easter Sunday. And so the nurses kind of, felt bad for me. But anyways, I had an older sibling, and they contacted the person that had my older sibling and asked if she would take me. And of course she said yes. And so she took me in. I wasn't actually in foster care. I was in kinship care at that point. But on my 5th birthday, my mother, apparently my birth mother, that's when Children's Division really got established in 1971. I was born in 1973. And then when I turned 5 years old, they were giving incentives to have parents sign over their rights. And they paid my mother $1,000 to sign over her rights. She would get so many visitations and all this stuff. Well, on my 5th birthday, I had a male caseworker come pick me up, tell me he was going to move me to another foster home, and that I was going to like it there. And I was like, I don't want to leave. It's my birthday. So they gathered up all my stuff, telling me I was going to go to a birthday party and all this stuff. And during the transportation, he decided to pull over and give me a special birthday gift. And that was the first experience I had of a grown man raping me. I arrived at the foster home. I was crying. I was hurting. I could barely walk. The foster mom took me in, strapped me down to a bed. There was nudie pictures above my head. She told me I had to do whatever the adults wanted to do, or she would burn me, and she would. She'd burn me with cigarettes in my privates if I screamed or hollered. As the party goers were coming in, the first person that came in that night after he had raped me on the transportation there, he was the first person that walked in that night at the party. And I begged him to take me back to my auntie's house, and he raped me again. And then after that, I had other adults come in. And what's sad is throughout the years from age 5 to 8, a lot of the sex trafficking that they would do with me, a lot of the people that I saw at these orgy parties were people I saw at their own office, at the Children's Division office. So when I was 15 years old, I kept on to that picture of him.
I have a picture of him, and I'm going to show that. But how many people were at that party, Lucinda?
A lot.
You said...
I don't know. I was strapped down to a bed in a private room, and I was the play toy for these adults. I managed to get away with one of them, and I hid naked in the bushes. And the police showed up, I guess, because they were getting too loud. I was scared to run out to the police because I was butt naked. Children, I was scared. So I never did run out that night to the officer, but they had showed up. I wish I had run out, but maybe things had been different. But I stayed in that home till I was about 8 years old. I had been labeled mentally disabled, that I couldn't learn. That's what drove me to decide that I wasn't going to let that be a label.
Amen.
I don't believe in labels.
Amen. Yes.
So it drives me. I'm kind of addicted to learning. That is my addiction, is learning.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not only do I have 2 master's degrees, I was 19 hours from a pilot license. I'm certified to do drug testing, to do credit repair, to do home health. I can do electricity, plumbing. I can fix a radiator in a car. I'm addicted. If I don't know how to do something, I go and learn how to do it.
I'm impressed. Wow. I'm completely impressed. So from 5 to 8, you were in that foster home. And did this continue with being raped?
In that same foster home, though, they had split me and my brother up.
Right.
And I had gone to another home, which was the first aunt that had me from 1 to 5. She had come and visited me when I was 8 years old, and I was telling her about these teenage boys on the weekends. I was gang raped at the age of 7 by a bunch of teenage boys.
Oh my
And
God.
the teenage boy that lived there at that home would get money for these boys to practice on me on the weekends before going and doing it with their girlfriends. I was their play toys. And so I begged my aunt to help me, and she kidnapped me in the middle of the night when I was 8 years old and took me back to her house, but she had moved and they couldn't find her. And the sad part is her daughter was very abusive to me. And that's why I never let anybody babysit my children, because she was the local babysitter, and she would have a bunch of kids over, and she would make us lay down, and she would pair us up. She'd make us watch dirty movies and tell us we had to imitate what was in the dirty movies. If not, she would whip us. And I mean, that's why you don't leave, you know. And then when my aunt would go to work and she had to stay home and babysit me, she would put me in this big gas stove, put a diaper on me and stick me in the stove, pull all the racks out, stick me in the stove, turn the music up so the neighbors couldn't hear me crying. And I was always scared to death that somebody forget I was in there and turn it on. So I have nightmares of being burned alive because I was scared to death of being burned alive. But what was sad is years later, when I was pregnant, my first pregnancy, on the news, I saw that exact apartment building where a boyfriend had burned a 6-year-old in that same type of oven that was still there when I was a little girl. And he had burned a little girl alive in that same apartment where they used to stick me in the oven. And for days, I wouldn't cook. I kept wetting the bed. It was so traumatizing to me. My husband, we've been married 30 years, and he has been by my side the whole time. When
Amen.
I had night terrors,
Oh my
when I
gosh.
had, wetting the bed. I mean, it's not something you want to admit as a grown adult that, you have nightmares so bad that you're wetting the bed as a child. But it took me having to talk about it. It took me being
Absolutely.
able to, my husband sat me down and he goes, I don't know what's going on, but you watch something on the news and now you are, something's wrong. Please, I can't help you if you don't talk to me. So that's where the communication started with my husband. And yeah, it made him mad, but he always told me nothing like that would ever happen to me. And I've never been more
Reassured
secure.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask Damon about this, because Damon, as a mental health for trauma, was the bedwetting, is that like something that happens when you go through trauma?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. That is one of the major components, like Lucinda mentioned earlier. It's major. And when I see and hear this, especially with young kids, as young as she was, that's the first thing that comes to our mind, because we're trained for this, is the bedwetting. It's a
Mm.
bedwetting. Yeah. And I'm gonna share this. My first wife, I can understand at 18, 19 in college. I was like, why are you wetting the bed? I found out later that she was molested by her older brother. So look how life circle is with me coming into this field. I learned this at 18, 19 with her in college. And then all these years later, I get into this field. So I understand what Lucinda's saying. I get it. Almost definitely. That's one of the major components, the bedwetting. Yes.
And you were triggered by, what was it with the television though? Was it because of the type of stories that you were
No,
seeing?
because it was the exact apartment
Oh,
where
okay.
I had been at. And when I recognized it, it traumatized me. And here's the part, I had been so sheltered. I had begged my husband for a TV. We hadn't had a TV. And within the first week of having the TV, that news was on. And I saw that. And I was pregnant. I was getting ready to have a baby, my very first baby. I was like 8 months pregnant. The first night that I wet the bed, he thought my water broke. And I was so mortified to have to tell him I had a nightmare and I wet my bed. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll go sleep on the
Yeah.
couch. And he goes,
Wow.
oh, no, you're
Oh,
not. You're going to sleep in the bed. And then the
Right.
next night I
Oh.
wet the bed. I wet the bed for like 2 weeks. And finally my husband sat me down and he said, baby, if you don't want to talk to me, we need to get you some help. You are screaming in your sleep.
Oh,
Bloody
wow.
murder,
Mm-hmm.
screaming in your sleep.
Yep.
You're hitting me. You're kicking me. What is wrong? You won't cook. You won't use the oven. I quit cooking. I wouldn't nothing. And he goes, I don't understand what happened. And that's when I broke down. And it was the first time I'd ever shared my story with anybody was with my husband. I
Now,
was a
when you got
grown woman.
pregnant the first time, who was the baby by the first pregnancy?
My husband is the
Oh, it
only
was
man
the
I
husband.
married and the only man I had children with.
Oh, wow, that's good. Now,
Even
you
though
mentioned,
I had been raped my whole life. Here's the beauty of it. The
wow.
girls' home that I went to at the age of 15 to 18, I had gotten saved, and I had decided, even though I was not pure because it was taken from me, I was never going to give it until I was married. And so when I met my husband, we courted. And then when we got married, he was the only man that I'd ever given myself to. So, and had my children with him. And before we had gotten married, I was told by 3 specialists I would never be able to bear children because of the severe rapes that had happened when I was I used to get raped by garden tools and all kinds of stuff shoved up
Oh,
my privates. I
Jesus
was so
Christ.
scarred that they told me I would never be able to
Oh,
bear
Jesus.
children. And so I had gone to 3 specialists, had several procedures done, scrapings and stuff like that. And they told me the scarring was too great. I would never be able to have children. And so when I met my husband, that was one of the things I told him. But he's much older than me. My husband is 17 years older than me. He said, I'm not marrying you. If God gives you children, then we'll know that, it's from God. And he says, I'm not worried about it.
Did your
And
husband have kids when you guys met? Did he have kids?
he had
No?
never been married either.
Wow.
Wow. That's
No.
amazing.
And so we got married. We actually eloped. We had met each other and eloped 3 months later. And we've been married 30 years. I have 8 children in heaven, and I have 6 living children. I have Grace, Hope, Faith, Charity, and Serenity. And then my autistic son, who is 8 years old. God finally gave me a little boy. So,
Now, you mentioned to me, Lucinda, before the show that you had 8 children that are now in heaven. Can you tell us about that?
well, I knew I was going to miscarry the days that I had 2 sets of triplets, a set of twins, and then children in between each of my pregnancies that went to be with the Lord. So I don't know why God took them home. My understanding was that I had some severe chemical imbalance. But the mornings I woke up, I don't know why. I'm not saying I had a dream or anything like that. I knew when my birth mother died, I was 15 years old. I went to my adopted mom and I said, you made a promise to me that if I ever wanted to check on my birth mother, you would. And she goes, yeah, what's up? I said, she's going to die today. I just want to make sure that she loves the Lord and that she'll go to heaven. And
Oh,
she
wow.
goes, did you have a dream? I'm like, no, I just know she's going to die today. And sure enough, she died that day. She got beheaded by a Walmart truck.
Oh,
And I knew that she was going to die that day. I also
oh.
knew when my husband was going to die after my 3rd child. I begged my birth mother my adopted mom to help me get him to the hospital because I woke up that morning and I said, my husband's going to die today. I just gave birth to my 3rd child. It was like 4 days after my birth. And I said, I woke up and I reminded her about my birth mother going to her and telling her that she was going to die. And she goes, I'll never forget that day. Why? What's going on? And I said, my husband's going to die today if I don't get him to the hospital. Please help me get him to the hospital. So she helps me get him to the hospital, convince him he needs to go to the hospital. He goes there. He had within an hour's time, quadruple bypass, 2 stents, and a balloon put in because he had 98 to 92% blockage in like 5 arteries. And they said he would have died that day if he hadn't gone in to see the doctor.
Now, Lucinda, I have someone that's sitting here in the studio who has seen your story, and he has some words for you. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. Welcome to the show, Spencer.
Hey, Spencer. I can't hear.
You're on mute.
I'm sorry, it was muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, she knows who I am. I found her about 2 years ago, and I listened to her story on YouTube.
And what did you think about her story, Spencer?
I actually had to take a week in between each one because it makes you cry listening to it.
Right.
So I believe it's 3 or 5 videos somewhere in there. And each one I would take like a week in between because it gets to you.
Yeah. Well, what encouraging words would you like to say to her, Spencer?
You're never alone. She found God. I'm still, I hate to say it, working to do that.
You're still working to find God?
Well, to follow him.
Okay.
She kind of knows so what's going on.
Okay. Well, I just wanted you, I know that you were leaving comments and you were saying how, her story, how it affected you. So I just wanted to bring you on for a second just so you could say hi to her, okay?
Right.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Continue watching the show, okay?
All right.
All right. Wonderful. So you see, Lucinda, I mean, people are moved by your story. It's almost unbelievable. I know you said something to me also before the show that you've taken several lie detectors because of everything that she's been through. People just can't believe it. So what was it that caused you to just say, okay, I'll just take the lie detector test? Who was challenging you?
I didn't know I could. So when I was 15 years old, what had happened was when I was 14 years old, I got adopted when I was 11 years old. I was basically nonverbal. I was labeled mentally disabled, retarded, said I couldn't learn. Actually, under my adoption picture, it said mentally retarded, cannot learn, traumatized beyond repair, needs a loving family. That was the picture that was under my picture in my adoption book. And my adopted mom sat me down and showed me that, and I didn't understand it. And she says, they're saying you can't learn. Well, she had been a teacher for 19 years, and she said that she would help me if I wanted to go to big kids school. And I said, well, yeah, of course, I would love to. And so I had school from the time I got up to the time I went to bed at night. We took it everywhere. So if we went to the doctors, to church, anything, I was doing schoolwork. She caught me up 5 grades in 1 year.
Wow.
Okay. And I started regular school. And then when I never was allowed to have sleepovers or friends. It might have been because her husband was raping me on a daily basis. And he was afraid of me tattling or telling somebody. But the problem is I've been raped since I was 5 years old. The very first night in his home, he had raped me and told me that's what good little girls do for their daddies. Okay, so I didn't know any different. I didn't have the sex talk where somebody says nobody's supposed to do that. And so I didn't fight him. I did it thinking that that's what I was supposed to do. And my best friend was taking piano lessons from my mother, and her brother had just gotten run over by her dad by a farming accident, and she got to spend the night. Well, my mom forgot to tell my dad that she was spending the night, and I told her to hide under the covers when he came in. And when he was doing his dirty deed, he started to get on top of me. That's when she made herself known. And he jumped out of the bed, pulled his pants up, ran out of the room, started screaming at my mom. And I said, what's going on? And she goes, what the heck was that? I said, what are you talking about? Doesn't your daddy do that to you? And she was like, no, that is not what daddies do. And I said, he's been doing that since I was the very first night in his home. He told me that's what good little girls do for their daddies. And so she told me, she started teaching me about what sex was, that it was only supposed to be done. It was only supposed to be done between a man and a wife, you know, and not by daddies, or, you know, that was something bad. And I said, well, I don't understand. It's been done to me since I was a little girl. I don't understand. So the next day she brings this book to school teaching me about sex and about, you know, stuff like that. And we're in the closet and she's showing me all this. She got the information from her mother to teach me what the proper, you know, and she goes, you have to go tell the teacher. You have to go tell somebody by the end of the day. And I begged her not to, because I didn't want to go back into foster care. I had my feet broken so I wouldn't run away. I'd been beaten and starved. I got beaten with a 2x4. It's in my documentation. I got beaten with a 2x4 and it had a nail in it and it punctured my lungs 3 times. And in the report, it says the foster parents admitted to beating her, but didn't know it had a nail in it. So that was their excuse, gave them more training. And I was like,
Oh my
wait a minute,
God.
you left me in that home after
Oh,
I got beat
Jesus.
with a 2x4 where they punctured my lungs with a nail that it was long enough to puncture my lungs 3 times. Okay. And you still left me in that foster home. See what I'm saying? That's where I was like, you're supposed to protect children. Why did you leave me in this home? But here's the thing. My caseworkers would come and visit me and abuse me too. So they would make me nail on wood, bare kneed, like split wood, and hold my hands out and hold dishes until my knees would bleed. And he would be out there with his monthly visit and he would add dishes to it and watch me get abused. He would watch me get abused and add to my abuse. So I had nobody who was my voice. My own caseworkers were abusing me, not only sexually, physically. You know what I'm saying?
So
I
how did
had
you get out?
nobody.
So how did you get out of all of this? I'm sorry,
So
Elle,
when
I
I
know
was
this.
9, it does have a happy ending. I know it sounds horrible. But what happened was one of the teachers saw us sneaking in and out of the closet, opened the door and said, what are you guys doing? Well, she saw that my friend had brought a sex book to school and we were in a Christian school. So we were both brought to the principal's office and they were going to spank her. And I said, please don't spank her. She brought that because, and then I ended up tattling on my dad why she had brought it, because I didn't want my friend to get in trouble. And I said, but please don't send me back to foster care. Right.
Wow.
And they got the police involved. I went to my dad's, my parents' house. Why on earth the police allowed me time with my abuser, I don't know. But he convinced me to say that we were lying, because if I didn't, I would be sent away to a foster home. And this time he would make sure I got killed. So
Wow.
I was scared. And
So
and I know this sounds terrible.
yeah.
Even though I was being sexually abused, I wasn't being beaten. I wasn't being starved. You see what I'm saying? It was the better of the two evils. And so they sent me away to a girls' home, Hephzibah House, for 3 years. It was a lockdown juvenile facility. And
Good.
when I got there, the director was like, why are you here? You're probably the most obedient child I have ever met. You say, yes, sir, no, sir. You do exactly what you're told. You're so submissive. The girls that are here are bad girls. These are girls that are criminals, that are court ordered to be here, or, are out doing bad things. He goes, why are you here? And I had just gotten saved the night before at a revival. And I decided that I wouldn't tell anybody ever again unless they specifically asked. And so I told him about really why I was sent there. And I said, but it doesn't matter. I already took it back, said it was a lie. And he goes, well, we can prove it. I said, how can we prove what I'm saying is true? He goes, I'll tell you, we'll take you and get a lie detector test done. And that's when
Okay.
I pulled out that picture of that caseworker, and I said, can I take a lie detector test that he's the first one that ever raped me? And he's like, yes, we absolutely can. And
Is this the guy?
yes. I don't know his name. And when it came back that I was telling the truth, an investigator came out. He said that when they started the investigation, he was actually here from the UK. And the second the investigation started, he took back off to the UK.
Wow.
And so the case was closed. And
so this all
I
led
never
you
did
to,
get his name.
right. So this all led you to one day you said, you know what? I have to help other people that are in this type of situation. Is that when you started getting involved with CPS?
Actually, no. So when I got my master's degree to start a nonprofit counseling ministry, I needed a part-time job. And I was counseling somebody who was working as what's called a parent aide, which is doing visitations for parents that had lost their children in care and doing supervised visits. And she said, you make a great parent aide. And I'm like, really? What is a parent aide? I'd never heard of it. And so I took a part-time job, which ended up being a full-time job, doing visitations as a subcontractor, doing court work, doing visitations and writing reports and stuff like that and helping families. And the very first family I helped, they were going to terminate those parents' rights based on an aunt saying that they had been sexually abused. But somebody who's lived and breathed it their whole life, I knew it wasn't true. I knew it was just not true.
Right.
I knew, because when you live and breathe it as long as I had, I recognize it. And I said, these children have never been abused. And the last visit I had with the parents, the mom couldn't stop crying. I was like, what's going on? I don't understand. And she pulled, I pulled her aside and she goes, we're going to lose our rights tomorrow because my lawyer just called me and he says he doesn't know how to fight this. He doesn't understand why they're even trying to take these children, but we're going to lose. And I said, give your lawyer my number. I said, I believe that I can testify and be able to help you. So the lawyer calls me and he goes, what do you think you can do? And I said, well, one, I have well, at the time I only had one master's degree. I've authored a book, which was my very first book that I meant for evil. And I said, look, my personal experience, my professional experience, and the fact that I had spent over 300 hours with these families, I can assure you these children show no signs of child abuse. None. No signs of it whatsoever. No sexual abuse, nothing. And he goes, okay, well, then I'm going to see if I can submit you in as testimony at the last minute. I was on the stand for over 5 hours testifying about the visits, about the children. These are some of the families that I helped get their babies back. So I testified for 5 hours, and the judge said, absolutely, return these children in 2 days. Thanksgiving is in 2 days. Miss Pennington, can you help them get a Thanksgiving dinner? I said, absolutely. I cook for 600 people on Thanksgiving. They will have a Thanksgiving dinner. Sure, your judge, they'll have everything they need. They were so mad because they had already set up an adoption for those children. And so that's when I found out the corruption of what I was dealing with. And I've helped 11 terminating of parental rights go back to reunification. I've helped one family get their rights after they've been terminated back. I've closed 5 foster homes down, 4 group homes down. And I just,
Unbelievable.
in every case that I did, it just, the Lord just opened another door. And it was like, I didn't want to be in this mix. It was really hard for me. If you told me you were a foster parent, my husband told me my whole body language would get very aggressive. My fist would ball up, because out of the 13 different foster homes I was in, there was only one. And I say only one that did not starve me, beat me, and sexually assault me.
Wow.
Only
Wow.
1 out of 13. So when somebody told me they were a foster parent, my first reaction was, I want to rip your face off right now. You know what I'm saying? I want to
Wow.
beat the. And so it took me cleansing and praying, and not every foster parent is that way. But like I said, I shut down 5 of them. One had been open for 21 years. 21
Wow.
years she had been open abusing children. And I shut her down. I got the evidence that I needed. The
Good
children
for
didn't
you.
have to tell me anything.
Right.
They never told me anything. I sensed it because I lived and breathed it. I knew it. They didn't have to tell me anything. I knew exactly what the foster parents were doing.
Right.
And I knew how to get the evidence.
Well, that, we're going to get to the at the end. I want to talk about, because I want to show everybody your new building, but I want to get over to Lawrence, and let's get started and dig into his story. I'm very proud of you, Lucinda. I mean, because you have gone through stuff that would have taken most people out, like seriously. But I want to wrap up with you at the end, but I want to get started so we can hear a little bit from Lawrence. Lawrence, are you still there with us? He's a little delayed there, guys. So just bear with him. Looks like you're muted, Lawrence.
I'm here, and I hope all of you are getting me.
Yes, we can hear you now. So,
Hello, I'm here. Are you hearing me?
Right, Lawrence, I can hear me in the
I'm
background.
here, and I hope all of you are getting me.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Turn your phone on mute, sweetheart. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Uh-oh. Listen, live TV. It is what it is. And he is in Africa right now. So, guys, it could be a little delay there with the internet. But if you are just tuning into the Ella Johnson Show, we are talking about true stories of survival here tonight. This is our 4th night in our Birthday 53 series. Yes, it was my birthday on Sunday. So my idea of spending my birthday was to spend it with you guys, bringing true stories all week here to you, my viewers. So if you just tuned in, Lucinda has been telling us about her story. Being in foster care. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the stuff that you've been through, Lucinda. How would you categorize it as far as, let's say, someone who is a firm believer in God, and you are, and someone says, well, how can God allow these things to happen to someone over and over and over and over again? What would you say to that?
I would say, and this is exactly what I tell them, God has given us all free will. I choose to do good, not evil. Now, we don't answer for those people that do evil. God says he is our avenger, and he will avenge us. And I will be honest with you, a lot of people that hurt me are dead. So, within days of hurting me. So,
Did you forgive them, Lucinda? Have you forgiven them?
I did. I do, so that I don't fill my heart with bitterness and anger. I truly believe God is the example of forgiveness, because if you cannot forgive for yourself, now, have my abusers ever asked for forgiveness? Absolutely not. But the thing is, I don't forgive them for them. I forgive them for me, so that my heart can heal. And so I don't fill my heart with the root of bitterness and anger, because I was a very bitter, angry teenager. And I realized that doesn't help my relationship with Christ. And I truly believed when I had a Sunday school teacher when I was 7 years old, had a bus captain. Here's the beauty of it. I had a bus captain that every single foster home I was in, his mission in life, he said, was to bring children to church on the bus. And every time I got moved, I would wait outside in the front yard, waiting for that big yellow bus to pass to find me. Okay, because they would never tell where I moved. Every single foster home I was moved to, that bus captain found me, and he would pick me up and take me to church. And he would never know. He would just drive, and I would be sitting out there. My foster parents couldn't figure out why I would just sit for hours in the front yard. And it was because I was hoping the bus captain would come by and find me. And every foster home I was put in, this bus captain would find me and take me to church. And I had a Sunday school teacher one time tell me that when your mother and your father forsake you at birth, he will take you up and he will put a special anointing on that child. And I believe even through the pains and the begging to take me home, even as a child, I would ask God to take me home. I could feel a presence saying, I'm here with you. It'll be okay. It's not your time. And I kept going. And I knew that God directed my path. God put people in my life, mentors. And I just felt that, you know, the people that harmed me, God's going to take care of them
God's
one
gonna
day.
take
I
care.
don't need to.
Did you ever think about committing suicide, Lucinda?
I did once. And
Live TV. Gotta love it. There she is.
sorry,
Okay.
somebody's trying to call me. But no, I rebuke that. I don't believe in suicide because of my beliefs in Christ. I believe that when he's ready, I just got healed this year of a blood clot the full length of the right side of my body. And the story behind that would just blow your mind. And I
Well,
believe it was because
tell us about it. What happened? How did you?
Okay. So I started getting this really horrific pain in my foot, on the side of my foot. And it got to the point where it was very hard for me to walk, but I kept walking. I went to the doctor. She sent me to the hospital and they told me it was a blood clot. Well, it just kept hurting worse and worse, kept getting bigger and bigger. By the time it reached my knee, they was really concerned. They had me on so much blood thinner. It just kept growing, kept growing. I was having Dopplers after Dopplers. But because of my abuse as a child, part of my heart is fused to the wall of my chest. So my heart beats like this. And they couldn't go in and remove the blood clot like they normally do through the heart. And so they were going to fly in a specialist. By the time it reached up into my neck, it had grown all the way to the length of my leg, all the way up my arm. And then it was growing up into my neck. And I got really scared. You know, they're telling me I'm going to die soon. I have an autistic son. I'm a caretaker of my autistic son. I don't have any family. Almost all my husband's family is dead. I'm just like, who's going to care for this little boy? And, you know, and it kind of, I was like, God, are you done with me? I don't understand. And so I was praying fervently, God, I don't understand what you want from me. I have served you. I've loved you. I don't understand. And it just grew and grew and grew. So they were going to bring in a specialist from St. Louis, special Indian doctor, to look at it and see what's going on. And I had the Doppler the day before, and I told my husband, I love our church, but it's not a real healing type of church with prayer. You know, I just didn't feel like their prayers was going to cut through. And so I had a friend that was like, this church really focuses, they have prayer rooms and all this stuff. Go there, let them pray over you. And so it was a Wednesday night. I should have been at my own church, but my husband gave me permission to go to this prayer service because I was really scared. And I went to the prayer service, had them pray over me. And I noticed they had a special evangelist from Nigeria there, or somewheres from overseas. I don't know. And I thought, you know, I just missed church. I'll sit here and listen to, you know, the evangelist and his wife and stuff like that. And so I'm sitting there and I'm really burdened because I don't, you know, I just got prayer. They didn't know what they were praying for. They just knew I needed prayer. And so my friend shows up late and I'm like, hi, I'm here. I decided to stay. And the preacher's preaching. And all of a sudden his wife stands up in the middle of the service and she goes, honey, I hate to bother you, but God told me that there's somebody here right now that needs the God's healing prayer, fire prayer right now. And he goes, if you say so, honey. And so she pulls a chair out right in the middle of the service. And she goes, God, whoever's supposed to be in that seat, bring them here right now. And I'm looking around going, who's coming up? I'm like, and I felt a hand on my shoulder and I thought it was Natalie, my friend. And I turned and she's still in the back. And I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. Next thing I know, I feel my body getting pushed forward and like I'm just being pushed forward. And I get up there and I'm shaking. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And I get sat down, and next thing I know, she's saying, I want people that are living righteously, doing right, reading their Bible, getting up here and laying hands on this woman. We need to pray. And they don't know what's wrong with me.
Right.
And she comes up and she starts praying on me. And the next thing I know, for an hour and 33 minutes, they were praying over me. Okay.
Right.
Just praying. And then I'm a Baptist, so we don't believe in tongues, but my husband used to be holiness, right? And next thing I know, I hear this woman that was praying for me singing this most beautiful song that I'd ever heard in my life. It was about that verse about when your mother and father forsake you, I will take thee up. I'm going to mold you, make you. I'm your creator. I'm your father. You are most loved and all this stuff. I know you've been in pain. It was the most beautiful song I had ever heard in my life. It moved me to tears. And after the service, I asked my friend, I said, that song, I've got to talk to that woman. I want to play, because I play the piano. And I'm like, I want to learn that song. And she goes, what song? I said, the song she sang for like 10 minutes. It was the most beautiful song I'd ever heard. She goes, baby, she was praying in tongues. I said, what? She was not praying in tongues. She never spoke in tongues.
Right. Lucinda, I want to bring in Damon, because I want to talk about some of the issues that you brought up, that you went through, Damon, because we have a lot of people, children. I was looking at some of the stats that are absolutely alarming when it comes to CPS. And based on my research, we have like over 400,000 kids that are being removed from their homes.
452,000.
How many?
452,000.
452,000. Yeah.
They have to meet a quota in order to make the states profitable. They make 3.3 million per child in the system.
So, Damon, what kind of effect can this do when you have a child that's been living in their home and they're just suddenly removed? Because I don't know how CPS, when they decide to actually remove, I don't know if that's the first thing that they do, Lucinda and Damon. But what do you think, Damon, happens for a child when they're actually removed out of the household?
It's traumatizing. It's definitely traumatizing, because I'm definitely dealing with that right now in the state of Charlotte, exactly right now that you and I discussed. It's major when someone is removed from a home. It's a major impact, and people don't understand the ramifications of, one, that child, and two, that family that child is placed with. Is major. And I tell these people, be very careful when you take in a child. We have love for kids. We want to do the right thing. We want to nurture, but we have to be careful who we bring into our homes. We have to be very careful. My first wife of 15 and a half years, she, like, my story, she adopted 4 kids. She's 55 right now, 54. She adopted 4 more kids. They all have my last name. Hey, kudos to you. And she always had a heart for kids. But with her, she brought the right kids into her home. And I would say that because I've sat with the kids. I have spent time with the kids. And those kids are right for her. Every situation is different.
You're there. Go ahead.
Every situation is different. You know what I mean? I hear horror stories every day of kids being placed in foster care and they're miserable. And then the parents that has brought them into their homes, they're miserable. So I tell people, be very careful. Because we have to really understand the unknown. What happens when the unknown happens? And when I mean unknown, is like when they go left. What are we going to do as parents that we have introduced this kids or that child into our homes? What are we going to do if they go left? Are we in a position to set up therapy? And my thing is this: we can wait forever for DCF to set therapy up for these kids that are being placed. It takes a long time. Sometimes, majority of the time, it does take a long time. Once they're placed in your home, you got to go through all this red tape to get them set up for therapy. And my thing is this: you better be prepared for the unknown. And that's what I tell people.
Absolutely.
You have to be
But
prepared for it.
but this is what's troubling to me, Lucinda. You were in foster care. Aren't they supposed to come and visit the home when they've placed you there to make sure everything is going okay?
Yeah, but they were abusing me as well.
Ugh.
They were participating in my abuse. So even at the age of 19, I was still, they still were receiving money. I had to get permission to get married at the age of 20. I didn't get released from Children's Division until I was 21. I was married for a year before they released me from care.
I thought you were done at 18.
No, not
No.
because I was labeled mentally retarded. I had to stay until I was 21.
Yeah, that's totally different component right there, Ella, when you're dealing with that.
But
Yes.
you weren't mentally retarded. So how could they put that in your record if you weren't mentally retarded?
Why do people do the things they shouldn't do? Money. It's about the
Right.
money. Same thing with the school systems. If you know in the school systems, the first 3 or 4 months, they have to have numbers. They really want to
Can I share one tip that you probably don't know that I just discovered? They get Title IV funding for the foster kids that ride the buses at the school. So if they don't have a foster kid on one of their routes, the teachers and them will meet which kid can we get reported to Children's Division so that our bus route is covered. They have to have so many foster kids on their routes to have their bus routes paid for through the Title IV funding.
Yeah, everything is about the money. Like she said, even in the schools, the first 3 months of schools all across the globe, you know, I teach as well. They have to have the numbers in. They don't really want these badass kids the first 3 or 4 months, but it's about the money. Once they get past that spectrum of the 3 to 4 months, they can say, okay, they got to go. They'll suspend them, send them home.
Wow.
But that's a cap for them. It's about the money with all this stuff. It's about the money.
So I want you to briefly, Lucinda, I want you to briefly touch on what happened with Medicaid and how you helped with this 2.3 million overbilling that they did and all they had to pay back. Tell us briefly about that.
Okay, so the parent had come to me and she's like, is it normal for every insurance company to pay the same bill? I said, what are you talking about? She goes, well, my husband, who's a firefighter, his insurance has paid this bill. And then I find out my insurance, as I think she was a nurse, has paid the bill. And then Medicaid is paying the bill. I'm like, oh, this is juicy.
Right.
I'm like, so we had 3 printers going. We were printing out every single bill, and comparing that every single company had paid them the exact same bill, right? So they were overpaid by $2.3 million. Okay, overpaid. So they had gotten $3.5 million on that one child just through Medicaid. One child. And we only did it on one child. She had 5 children in care. Think of the numbers that they were making on this family of 5 children.
So where does that come from? The balls, if you will, to go after somebody like Medicaid? Like, where does that come from? Were you afraid?
It just, like I said, God just plopped it in my lap. I showed the mom how to do it. I didn't even submit it. I showed her how to do it. I knew the numbers because I sat down and helped her figure out all the numbers. We packaged it up, sent it to each insurance fraud department, as well as a copy to the FBI. Next thing we know, I'm doing 3 shows talking about it. FBI comes out with charges against them for $2.3 million. And I'm sitting there going, yay!
Oh my gosh.
But they, within less than a month, The state helps them rebrand, rehire the 117 caseworkers, and reopen their doors.
Now that's mind blowing. That is absolutely mind blowing. What? Tell me, Lucinda, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about everything that you went through. What did you learn from all of this? Like, what, if you can say the one thing that I'm taking away from this experience, describe what that is for me?
For me, it was the fact that I had nobody to listen to me, nobody to hear my story. And when I did tell somebody, I would be severely punished. And so trying to be the voice for the voiceless was my goal. I had judges ask me, why do you do this? Doesn't make you any money. You could be doing this. And I was like, because I want to be the voice that nobody had for me. And nobody would hear me. I want to be screaming it from the mountaintop. God is given. That's why my ministry is called Overcomers, because I believe that once you overcome, you're supposed to teach others how to overcome. I went through a lot of pain, a lot of challenges growing up. I also went through a lot of challenges once I got married, and I had a husband that was very supportive. I mean, not everybody is blessed like I was, having such a supportive husband. I mean, he went through a lot helping me. I was very, very, I had a lot of things to overcome. I went to school full time. I had my babies. I would take my babies to school with me, strapped on my back and on my front, learning as much as I could so I could help others. And
Right.
my goal was to help others. Whatever the door God opened for me, I just wanted to trust and obey. I didn't, a lot of people say, well, why don't you just ask God why he let you go through that? Because just like a time like this, so that I can help others. It's worse than it's ever been. It's legalized child trafficking. And I'm peeling back that layer of what has been, God says in the end times, those things that were done in secret are going to be known, right?
That's
It's
right.
going to be vocalized by the innocent. And I was an innocent child. I didn't deserve to be treated like that.
That's right. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you came out of it, okay, still with your mind and your peace and your faith. I think that's very good, because a lot of people come through these trials and they lose that faith. That totally
I've never
forget
been
about
on
God. I'm
medications.
so glad. Never been on medications either. Oh, that's awesome.
I've never done drugs. I've never done alcohol. God
Wow.
has been literally my rock.
Oh, yeah. Well, before we get out of here, I really want to kind of make sense of everything, Damon, because this is very traumatic. I mean, I
Yes.
told you guys at the beginning of the show that this was stuff that you're just going to sit there like, what? You can't believe, right, David?
What? Right.
So
What?
what do we say? What do we say to people that, because there are people right now that's suffering with this CPS thing. I know how CPS is as well. So I know what you're talking about, Lucinda, how they don't really, you may have some that are good. I'm not saying that everybody is this way, because there are some people that really do their job, but I think they're overworked and underpaid. And I think that it's causing them to miss some stuff. I know in Florida, there was this big case of this child that was killed while in foster care, because they were lying on the reports that they were going to see this child. The child wasn't even in the house. Okay. He wasn't even there. He was dead somewhere. So we know that there's some issues. So how do we navigate through this, Damon? How do we become better at the end of this when you are confronted with CPS?
In regards to CPS, as far as being placed, or the whole shenanigan? When
it comes to CPS and the trauma that you're going through, just having your kids removed. Let's start there.
Having your kids removed for the child is traumatizing enough. I'm not saying it's for the parents that's traumatizing, but 9 times out of 10 is more traumatizing for the child. And it's so sad because the child has to go to another home. It can go to 3 or 4 different homes, and Lucinda can vouch for that. But at the end of the day, it's like, how could you do this?
Well, children feel neglected. They feel like nobody wants them. They're
No
being
love.
lied to. Yeah, they're being
Yep.
lied to by the foster parents,
Yep.
saying that your parents don't
Your
want
parents
you
don't
back.
want you. Right.
Well, what's disturbing is, I don't know if Damien, you know this. I exposed this on one of my cases. One of the foster mom would adopt them and then sell them to a work farm.
Oh yes, of course. It's about the money.
Or they rehome them, after they adopt them because the children act out and stuff like that. They rehome them. Yep.
And I hate to compare it. I'm sorry to cut you off. I hate to compare it, which I don't want to compare it, but it's not. I don't want to say it's on its level, but it's the same thing when you have your parents sex trafficking the kids for money.
Yep.
It's about money today. It's about money. It's about how can we make money. It's sad. And CPS,
But
let me
if
tell
you
you,
would
they're
take
overwhelmed.
away the incentives, they make $500 and something to get a parent to sign a safety plan the first day they come out.
The first day they go in there. Yep. Lucinda, right. Exactly.
But if they get them to sign it the second time they come out, they get like $100 less.
$100. Yep.
So they can lie to you, bully you, coerce you. So if you see my website here, if CPS is knocking at your door, you need to call me immediately. My number is well known. You call me immediately. 17 families last month called me with CPS at their door, and CPS couldn't even put one foot in the door.
Thank you.
And their case closed that day. These parents get scared. They think, well, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to let them in. The second they cross that threshold, that case is open. Now they got to convince you that you have a problem. The first question out of a parent's mouth needs to be, was this hotline done by a mandated reporter or anonymous? Because if it was done by a mandated reporter and it's not true, I'm going to take their license.
All right, listen, let me ask you a question. I know when it comes to kids, but as adults, let's say somebody make a call for an elderly person who don't love you or whatever and say, oh, my mom is being mistreated. Do you have to let them into your home? You don't? Now, see, elderly, I didn't know. Child as well, you don't have to let them in? So that's not just in Missouri. You sure that's global? Wow. What?
Because they're contractors. They're contractors.
So you don't have to let them in. So what happens when you don't let them in? What's the next step?
Okay, so the only way you have to let them in, that question about is it a mandated reporter or not a mandated reporter? If it is a mandated reporter, okay, you can say, well, I want to set up a schedule. Say if I wasn't there to help them or something like that, they can say, you can come back on this date, and when you come back, I'll either have a lawyer or an advocate here because I don't want to talk to you without representation.
So you can do that?
Yes.
I never knew that. Wow.
That's why knowledge is power. I actually got it on recording, them saying that if I continue teaching what I teach, I'll bring the system down. And they've got to shut me up.
Whoa. I never knew that. Thank you, Lucinda, for that. All this time, I never knew that.
Because people do get scared when
they
CPS
They do.
Let me let them in.
And they think the system is going to protect them because they're not a bad parent. But if you have cat feces or doggy poop on your floor, they're going to say, oh, this is a filthy house. We're going to take your kids.
Got you.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So when you say no, you can't come into my house without X, Y, and Z.
Correct.
They will
here's
leave.
The beauty part. When they do talk to them, and when I do have them talk to them I don't even let them come in when they have that scheduled appointment and they bring the police. Here's what I have them do. Okay. What I have them do is I say the police officer can go in the house with the parent and do a walkthrough, but you cannot.
You cannot.
Oh, wow.
No,
yeah, you're right.
You may not walk in because he is an authorized agent. If he comes out and tells you house is fine.
You're right.
You have to abide by that, right? The kids are seen by at the window, hi, because they're not doctors. You don't get to examine my child because you're not a doctor. You don't have the certifications to do so.
Wow.
And then when they start asking questions with the parents about, do you go see a psychiatrist? Do you this? Ooh, are you asking HIPAA federal protected information? Who do I send the complaint to against, you or your supervisor? Because that's a $10,000 fine. Are you going to pay it or your supervisor?
That's true.
Wow.
I know now. I know
All of a
that.
sudden,
I
that
know that.
caseworker is zip. I think this is done. Yeah, I think so. Bye. And they never hear from them again.
Whoa.
But here's the problem though. What happens if someone has this information and that child really is in trouble? That's
Okay,
the thing
but
that
here's the
concerns
thing.
me.
If the child, that's why if it's a mandated reporter, the officer will go in. Okay, the officer should be trained enough to see, if it's filthy, dirty, whatever. Okay.
But isn't the CPS person mandated as well?
They are
as well.
mandated,
Right.
but they're contractors. If you let them in the house, the case is open. Does that make sense?
That's true. Right.
So what I do, Damon, when I know that there's going to be an appointment and that officer is going to come out with that caseworker, I have a welfare check done before that date with another officer in his report, so that I do a lot, okay, to help these parents, and I have them clean their house really good before that date. Why? So that there's no question that I don't know about you guys, but sometimes my house isn't the greatest shape because I'm sick, or, companies come over or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We're not, but the thing is, if they want your children bad enough, I've had children taken simply because there was dirty dishes in the sink.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
But I thought, Lucinda, that CPS's whole mission statement was to try to keep the family together.
No, Ella, no.
They don't get the funding because of the initiatives of the 1996 Act. The initiatives, the $12,000, the $30,000 for the guardian ad litems, the $80,000 for the judge's retirement, all of this stuff, it's all about the money. And did you know the judges a lot of times aren't even active judges? They are retired judges that are overseeing a contract, and therefore children's, you've got all these constitutional law people out there, advocates, saying, well, the court do the court. Well, this isn't real court. This is literally contract law. In other words, it's not that you signed a contract. That's why I tell parents, never, ever, ever stipulate. You make them take you to trial. Never, ever stipulate. If you stipulate, you say you're guilty, and you cannot present any evidence until they try to take your rights. And I'm not a lawyer, but that's why my books, I study. I got their rules and guidelines. I hold it up and I say, here's your rules. This is your contract. According to the Title IV funding, you can't do that. They've been investigated here in Missouri for 3 accounts of child trafficking out of the 11 terminations that I did, because they had already done the paperwork for the adoptions before the parents had lost their rights. And so they got investigated for child trafficking. That's why they hate me so much. They call me the fraud, the criminal, when they're the ones actually forging police reports. You and I forge a police report, we're going to jail for at least 30 years, a minimum.
Easily,
but yet they get immunity, and this caseworker, this supervisor fired the caseworker because she refused to file a fake police report, fired the caseworker, stood in there, submitted that fake police report, and then the officer who was subpoenaed to court said, I never wrote that, never met the family. In fact, never have I ever spoken to that supervisor. And the supervisor gets a promotion over 2 counties. I took it to the attorney general, the governor, the senator. They all were like, we're contracted with them. We can't do anything. The governor makes $21 million. The attorney general makes $19 million to turn their backs on we the people.
Wow.
It's about the money.
9 million in the last 20 years is what my stat said today. 9 million kids in the last 20 years in this country.
It's sad. It's so sad. It's sad.
That's about as bad as prisons. That's a whole different story.
The couples that I do marriage counseling before they get married. I tell them to go get their foster license if they ever decide to have children, because CPS won't even take a second look at them if they're foster parents.
Yep, and that's true.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay. If you're a foster parent, you wow, you had a
So
lot of
that's how
nuggets,
I've won some
Lucinda.
kinships adoptions, is I will have the kinship go get foster license and then have them file for and intervene as foster parents, not as kinship, so that they can get their kids out of foster care.
Yep.
So I see
They hate
Mr.
that.
Bellamy is saying that he's going into what you're saying. I think that's what you're saying. Mr. Bellamy, tell me a little bit more about what you mean about that. Because it looks like you're helping folks tonight, Lucinda. I mean, you're telling me some stuff that because I really had a totally different mindset about CPS, being that I thought what their mission was is to keep families
Well, there
together
are
because
some,
it
just like in
traumatizes
any
kids.
agency, you've got some good people out there wanting
Right.
to make a difference, but they get fired. People like me, you would think if they really, really was in for the heart of the children, somebody like me exposing a supervisor forging a police report, they'd be like, oh
That should
no, we
upset it.
can't have
Right.
that, right?
Yeah.
No, it's shut her down, fire her. We don't want her. She's going to expose us, right? Instead of doing something about it and making it right, they want to shut out the ones doing good. You know, evil is called good and good is called evil, because they don't really want it exposed, because if they did, they wouldn't be making their moo-moo.
So tell us about your book, Lucinda. Tell us about your book and where we can find it. They meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. I love that. That is just so
that's actually my
profound.
first and my second book. The company that had written it for me, my first book, went out of print when my second book got published. So what I did is I combined my first and second book on Amazon, since I had the rights to it. And so I put my first and my second book together, and I sell it on Amazon, or you can contact me through my website. It's $15. I think on Amazon it's like $12. The 15 just covers the shipping. And then I have the Do You Want Your Children Back? All States Manual. That is the Title IV federal funding. That is the contract from the federal government, what every state is supposed to follow to get their funding. Okay, it's the Title IV. You learn about the Title IV. I even put at the end how to dispute it and create a complaint, all the steps you have to do to cause an audit for your state or your county. Okay. Which they don't like that. It messes with their money.
Of course.
Okay.
Wow.
I also teach how to actually, so when somebody calls in a hotline about a foster home, it goes into a shredder because they're contractors. They cannot investigate their contractors. So what you have to do is you have to take your evidence and submit it to the licensing board. If you know your children are being abused in foster care, you have to send all of your evidence not to the hotline, but to the actual licensing board that gives licenses to foster parents.
Now that is very key. Did you know that, Damon? That was very good what she just said. I like that. We're going to end on that one, but I like what she just said. Can you repeat that so Damon can hear what you just said, Lucinda?
So if you have children being abused in foster care and you have evidence of it, that means pictures, audios, whatever, you do not submit it to the hotline because they shred it, because foster parents are contractors. They don't investigate them. What you have to do is take your evidence, not only send it to their licensing board, but send it through the ombudsman of your state, letting them know that you have sent it to their licensing board and you want to make sure this is being taken care of. That's how I shut down 5 foster homes.
Oh yeah.
Group homes.
Oh yeah. I knew that. Yeah.
Wow.
And I knew that, and that's very important. I'm glad you articulate that. That's very important. But yeah, I knew that.
Because we're trained to call the hotline for everything. Wow. Unbelievable. Good information. Guys, I want you to go out, get Lucinda's book. I'm full. I don't know. I may not be able to get a counselor tonight. I might have to end up getting a drink. I'm sorry. I don't think I can call a counselor at 10 or 9 o'clock at night, Damon, right? So I might have to get a drink for this one. I'm just saying. But listen, I want to make sure you have talked about this man so much. I want to make sure that we see him. Hello, Mr. Beard.
Yep, that's
Awesome.
my handsome husband.
All right,
He is
dear.
my light of my life. We've been together 30 years.
30 years,
I-
6
Lucinda,
children.
awesome.
What's
Never
his
been to
name again,
Missouri.
sweetie? I'm sorry. What's his name?
Stephen.
Stephen, thank you so
The
much for
strong
Thank you,
one.
letting
Stephen.
us have your
strong one.
wife
Yes.
for a couple hours tonight, guys. I'm sorry that we weren't able to get Lawrence back. We'll have to bring him back again because his story is incredible. And I'll just wait for him to come back to show all his pictures and everything. But this is your building. I want to show on everybody to see this. This is inside your building here.
volunteer
Congratulations, Lucinda.
office.
Awesome. Awesome, Lucinda.
Thank you, guys. Pray,
is our
pray, because
entrance
they're
for the drug
trying
testing.
not to open it. They're trying to make it to where
My
I can't
office.
open.
Our
Awesome.
little sign-in desk. This is the parent
I need volunteers.
Temp
If you live in
agency
Missouri, I need some
office.
volunteers.
UPC. And then this is the drug testing office where they do their login. And then down here is the drug testing bathroom. Here is the drug testing bathroom. And this is just our little section here. This is what it looks like. We have the refrigerator,
It's just a very small
stove,
section. Maybe
kids
a fourth
area.
of the building.
of course, movies, stuff like that.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Mr. Bellamy is saying here that he's looking to what you're saying about the cover-ups. He and Ben C have a whistle act for this.
Yeah, I signed up for the whistle protection under the FBI. They didn't protect me from being retaliated against. And the people that know me, they're retaliating against people that I helped get contracts. They lost their jobs because of it, simply because they're associated with me. Somebody likes something on Facebook, they'll fire them. So,
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear all of that, Lucinda. And you seem to be taking it in well. I know that if you stay close to God, he's definitely going to stay close to you.
Amen.
And you're
God takes
protected.
care of
You
us.
already know that. You already know you're protected, though. You have no worries, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your story. I appreciate you for coming here tonight to share it. I know that can be easy. Damon, is there anything you'd like to say before we get out of here, my friend?
Phenomenal. I'm glad that I got an opportunity to meet you tonight, listen to your story, listen to your credentials, listen to your wisdom. I appreciate you. We will be in touch. It's about saving the world.
That's
what
right.
I'm all about. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Well, guys, Damon is going to be here tomorrow night. Surviving Domestic Violence. That's the final show of the 53rd birthday series. And Damon's going to be here. And you see all that talent on the bottom? They're all coming with some inspirational songs. You do not, when I say you do not want to miss tomorrow night's broadcast, because Damon definitely has a powerful story, because he is a domestic violence survivor. And all of these people that are coming singing, they can sing. No, they can't sing. They can sing. Sing, baby. You don't want to miss this one tomorrow night. All right. But we'll be here for the final night of my birthday 53 series, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on the Ella Johnson Show. Anything else, Lucinda, you'd like to say before we get out?
Just thank you for the opportunity. And if anybody needs help, there's my website. Please, if you need a consultation, please reach out to me. I'm here for anybody that needs help.
I love it. All right, guys. Thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next time.
We are supporters of the Ella Johnson Show. We live in South Korea. We have been watching Ella Johnson Show for like a year now. And we love her show. Her show is very inspirational, motivational, and educational.
If you would like to be a guest on The Ella Johnson Show, send an email to theellajohnsonshow@gmail.com or send a text message to 407-334-6997.
We love Ella Johnson Show.